don't forget that it's midnight and you're knocking on that door. And finally, as you continue to knock, insistently knock, finally the man of the house who's in bed opens the loft window and looks down, and he said, "What do you want?" And you say, "I need bread. I have to have bread. I have a guest that's come my way, and I have no bread to set before him. I'm embarrassed." And he, the Bible said, who is within, says, "It's midnight. I'm in bed. My children are in bed. Everybody in this house is in bed. You should be in bed." Now, I didn't say that, but I'm sure he was feeling that. Now, he said, "Go home and come back at another time." And Jesus said, this man did not go home without his bread. He did not either receive bread because he was a friend or fondly thought of, but because of his importunity that is prevailing, that is an overcoming, victorious, insistent, never give up type of praying. I will not stop. I will pray till I get what I want. He got his bread. And Jesus was impressing upon his disciples that when you pray, don't just mumble your prayer. Don't just recite your prayer, but pray with urgency, determination, with importunity. You got to knock, he said, till you get what you want. Then he went on to say, ask and you shall receive. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Church, Jesus wants his people to be a praying people. A church that prays. Revival comes when the church prays. Glory comes down when the church prays. God heals the sick when the church prays. God saves the sinner when the church prays. God moves when a church prays. He wants a church to pray. Pray, prevailing prayer, holding on to God. Prayer. Prayers that move the heart of God. We're talking about tenacity. We're talking about importunity. We're talking about diligence. We're talking about never giving up, basically. That's what we're talking about. In the book of 2 Kings, there's an incident that I briefly want to refer you to. There was a preacher that visited a certain community on many occasions. There was a woman that lived there and her husband. And one day she said to her husband, "This man of God comes to our city or our town, and he ministers and he speaks to us, but he has no place to stay when he comes." So she said, "Let us build a little room on the side of our house." Basically, what she said was, "I perceive." That's a powerful phrase. I perceive that this is a holy man of God. So they summons the workers and the servants, and they built this beautiful room. When they finished the room, they furnished the room. The Bible said they furnished it with bed, with stool, with table, with chairs, with candle augers. And it was well fixed for the man of God. When they had completed the room, they could hardly wait for the next visit from the preacher. Now, I have something that I just want to insert. It really fits good for Pastor's Appreciation Day. When a church or any people perceives the man of God and honors the man of God, the blessings are abundantly and immeasurable to that church. You honor the word, you honor the man of God, you will be honored. And you will also feel good about yourself and what you're doing. Because when they finished the room, they could hardly wait for the preacher to come. They were just looking down the old trail or the old path that led into the town. And one day as they looked, the man of God and his companion topped the hill and began to proceed toward them. And they ran to meet him. And as they ran to meet Elisha and Gehazi, they were holding the key. And they said, "We have something special for you." They took them, introduced him to his room, and said, "Anytime you are in this vicinity or this town, this community to minister, this room is yours. Here's the key." Now, the man of God was overwhelmed by the compassion and the love that emanated out of this couple. And he said to them, or to Gehazi first, he said, "What can we do for them? Call the Shunammite woman in here." So they called the woman in, and Elisha said, "We're going to mention your name to the king. This is a great and noble deed." And you know what she said? She said, "Don't bother. I'm very happy to live amongst my own people. Don't mention my name. I didn't do this for honor." And when she went out of the room, he turned to Gehazi and he said, "There must be something we can do. Help me think, Gehazi." And after a little while, Gehazi come back and he said, I know what it is. This house is void of pattering feet. There's no laughter in this house. There's no joy in this house. There's no child in this house. It's just a man and a woman living here by themselves, but they need some happiness. They need some joy in this home. And Elisha said, "Call her in." And when Gehazi had called her in, he said, "You are going to have a child." And she said to him, and I've often said, I pastored one congregation for 30 years. And I've often said, if any of my saints would have said what she said to her pastor or her preacher, I don't know what I'd have said. But she said, "Pastor or Elisha, don't lie to me. Don't deceive me." I had to think that over for a while, and after I thought it over, I understood. What she's saying, basically, we've always wanted a child. We've wanted our home to be graced with laughter and merriment. We've wanted the excitement, but it's never happened. So don't build our hopes up here and it not happen. He said, "Oh, yes, it will happen. 1 year from now, you will cradle in your arms a little baby." And sure enough, 1 year from that time, she cradled in her arms a little baby. It grew. It grew. Year after year it grew until one day it said, "I want to go to the field with my father. I want to go out and I want to help harvest the harvest when he goes to harvest." And finally, after some persuasion and negotiation with Mama, she released him to go with Daddy. And I don't know what exactly was encountered in that dialogue. But maybe like this: "All right, if I let him go, Jake, you take care of him." And you say, "Well, how do you know his name was Jake?" Well, how do you know it wasn't? We don't have his name. And it just said, "If you go to the field, take care of that boy." They're out there laboring. The sun is bearing down. About noontime, the father feels a tug at his garment. Here's the cry of his child. When his child said, "Daddy, I'm sick," he looks down into the glazy eyes and touches the feverish brow of a child. Knows that he's very, very sick. Summons, no doubt, the most robust servant, because the father is an elderly man, and says, "Take this child quickly to its mother." And the servant is running home with the child, taking it to its mother. No doubt mother has a premonition. She's looking out the window, sees the servant coming with a bundle in his arms. She knows what that bundle is. That's my baby. That's my promise. That's what's brought excitement to our home. That's what brought joy to our life. That changed us forevermore. I know there's something wrong. She runs to meet the servant. Together they come into the house. She does everything she knows to do. The child goes into convulsions. The child dies. She takes that baby and she takes it with her tender, loving hands and carries it to that room of the preacher. And she lays it on his bed.